What's up, you guys? You have no idea how long it just took me to figure out how to go live here and show you slides because you guys, I'm so excited. For the first time in probably 3 years, I'm actually using slides in a presentation. If you know me, and if you don't, my name is Jackie Lacroix. Nice to meet you all. So glad you're finding me here today, but I generally just get in front of a whiteboard and go. But today I wanted to make sure that some of the information we're going to be going over, which is very, very, very important, is something you can really look at in handwriting or text now that is very legible, and to make sure you can really pick up each of the things we're going to be discussing. So I created this beautiful slide deck for you guys. Hopefully there's no typos. If there are, I'll correct as I go. But today is the second training in the 4-part series called the Bombshell Ascension. So if you were with me this past Tuesday, you watched me chart out the entire path, both of the business that I have run for almost 10 years now, coming up on 9 years. Whew, incredible to say that. And the actual path of a woman who's dedicated to living out her full assignment of total femininity. So I'm so excited. So many of you loved that. The comments I got and messages I got were incredible. And so I'm so glad to hear that it resonated. Today and for the next 2 trainings, like I said, we're going to look a little bit with more depth and focus on particular aspects of what's available to you right now, both in this time of year with what I'm doing to help women and also in your own ascension journey. So today we're going to be looking specifically at 4 ways you co-create and navigate your bombshell ascension, or in the past, I have referred to this as your new life era. Now, with the understanding that I have, I recognize that it's not like, oh, we're getting into a new era, or, oh, it's a new season. And it's not these temporal little moments that are in isolation, but it's this path that continues, that once you are on, and if you continually decide to engage with it, it never stops. Okay, which is exciting. Okay, it's not scary, it's not defeating, it's not exhausting, it's exciting. So that's what we're going over today. And I have not shared slides here before. So if you guys are coming on the Facebook page, which is the first time we're doing this here too, so hi everybody there, in the private Facebook group, on my YouTube channel, hello, hello, hello. Let me know that you can see these, and it doesn't really matter if you see me. I hope you can hear me, or it's just going to be a very pretty set of slides with no explanation, although they do speak for themselves. So let's dive in. I'm so thrilled to share this with you. We're going to be talking about the beauty and the power of a fully feminine woman today, looking at the ways people kind of make missteps and get caught into stuck cycles or limited understandings that are only partial, that are incomplete. That's not going to set us free. And then how do we make sure that we're doing this with the comprehensiveness that truly creates the freedom we're looking for? Yes? Ready? Excited? Now, if you guys have been in trainings before, if you haven't, if you've been to retreats, seminars, conferences, you might not know this because their speaker might not have told you, but let me inform you that yes, taking notes helps with retention, and that's great. If you want to jot down some of the things you see me going through on these slides, which should be easier than trying to follow me on a whiteboard because it's really, really legible, but also if you engage with me or just engage with yourself and with others, if I by chance can't see your comment as I'm teaching, writing it down, somehow having a social engagement with the content is shown to even more dramatically increase retention. So that's fun, an excellent way to make sure that this time spent here really makes a difference for you. Okay, let's get started. Oh my gosh, it works. You guys, if you run an online business or even just in your work, you know how exciting it is when tech works. That alone is a celebration. So here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to go into very quickly, very rapidly, because that's not what you're interested in, my story. Then we're going to flip the script into what you are interested in, which is your story. We're going to look at the signs and symptoms of a woman out of sync. How does this manifest? How can we know when we've gotten off track, right? And people may give us, oh, that's because of this, that's because of this. In my mind, it's because a woman has stepped out of divine design and her alignment with her total feminine assignment. Then the bombshell archetype, which is something I am kind of bringing back. I've used the word for a long time. I used to teach specifically what it means. It's in my book what it means, but bringing it more into my training so you guys understand it's not just a random word that I've chosen that's supposed to make us feel powerful or attractive. This is a very intentionally used, very powerful word with an extraordinary amount of history, both beautiful and not so beautiful behind it, that is an opportunity for us to step into. So I'm going to unpack that archetype a little bit more. And then the 12 pillars of a bombshell and beyond. I am so excited to show you what it takes to build a bombshell. That's what we're really going to get into today. The 4 steps that it takes once you have decided you're going to activate this identity to actually step in and say, okay, well, now what? I understand the pillars, the path. What does that look like? What are my first steps to clean out, to co-create a new life era, or this bombshell ascension, the next step on this ascension path for you? Then a little quick bit of the Paris embodiment, what it looks like to very quickly change our environment so that this can become a reality faster. A few of my gifts to you and your next move. So if you don't know me, again, my name is Jackie Lacroix. I'm the author of the Bombshell Manifesto, which has hit #1 bestseller on Amazon. And I say that because I have a very cool opportunity for you guys to be able to replicate that yourselves if you've ever had the desire to be an author, that I'm going to briefly talk about at the end of this. But that's my book. I've done a lot of work in intimacy and dating for a long, long time, helping women take back their power and reclaim a great deal of healing and freedom and joy in areas that have long been full of fear and shame for many women. And I do a lot of work with women who want to create a bombshell body, which I will talk about a little bit later. In fact, even this morning, I'll share a little bit of behind the scenes. I checked in with myself in ways I don't frequently anymore and was delighted, because that's an area where I have learned mastery, and you can too. All right, my journey. Hey, everybody. So very, very quickly, if you guys know me, if you've read the book, if you've been on my trainings before, you've probably heard some of this before. I grew up deeply dedicated to God. My mother has had various illnesses over the course of her life. So my prayer life, my relationship with God was very personal and very internal very early, which is something I'm so deeply grateful for. The resilience and the constant returning to God as a source of strength has been huge for me. But if you guys grew up in any kind of religious environment, and I wouldn't say I grew up in a religious environment per se, but as I got into the workforce and as I got to speaking to other women, I started to hear things that I hadn't experienced, but that were kind of appalling. And now I find that many of the women who resonate with me, who come and find my work intriguing and helpful and freeing, have had some kind of cultural or familial teaching or pressure that femininity and being a woman, being a good woman, has to look like certain things. And those certain things have been incomplete or inaccurate or intentionally guilt and shame ridden in order to control behavior. And because of the inaccuracy of that and attributing that kind of incomplete teaching or incomplete idea of what a woman is to God, they've struggled in kind of their spiritual understanding of, I feel this pull to have the idea that I have a divine design, that I can trust God, that I can step into something greater. But what I've seen and how I've seen that represented has not felt accurate or complete. Right. And so as I've worked with women for over a decade now, that I see all the time. They come to me all the time. And so my journey has also been unpacking what is God's truest divine design for women. And if whatever faith background, religious belief or not you currently have at this point in your life, it's the idea that there are certain things that work, right? If you've heard me talk about design versus lack of design before, there's the idea that, if you get into a car and drive it into the ocean, it's not going to work, right? There are certain things that fit best in certain ways. And if it's not working, chances are we're not in alignment with the way it was designed to work. So I'm very passionate about design, very passionate about the concept of a divine design for women and our individual assignments within that as the woman that we have been put here on earth to be. Okay. So much more important and interesting to me and to you is, what has your story been? I have worked with women from all walks of life, from all around the world. I've had the immense honor of working with women younger than me, working with women dramatically older than me, working with women who have had very restrictive pasts, who have had, wild pasts that don't feel aligned with them anymore, that they might do differently if they went back, right? All walks of life, all sets of decisions. In my intimacy work, especially, massive range of women. But the through line is that they're not satisfied with what they're experiencing right now. And even though they always have people, we all do, in the corner who are saying that's just how it is, just get used to it, just get over it, welcome to the world, sweetheart, sorry, suck it up. They've had this deep belief and longing that there must be something more. There must be something different. There must be something else that's more fulfilling, that's more complete, that kind of clicks things into place and creates different results. Yes? So for some women, that's happened through their relationships, it's happened through their career, it's happened through their relationship with God, with their family of origin, with their bodies, with beauty, with men, or all of the above, which is when it starts to feel so overwhelming that we just sink into defaults, into cultural stereotypes and platitudes and say, well, it must just be like this. So tell me if any of this sounds familiar. These are the signs and symptoms of a woman who's out of sync. Signs of hopelessness and being off track include low physical and emotional energy, low motivation, short temper, and the feeling that your buffer has eroded. Can we get an amen during the holiday season? Consistent lack of clarity, confidence, and consistency of following through with what you say you want. Now, we're here talking to the women, right? But, all humans struggle with this. I see this in men so much, right? It's just that gap between what we're saying to ourselves or to others that is what we really want. And then why aren't we aligning our actions with it? And it's not a guilt or shame based, how dare you, what's wrong with you? There's so many reasons, and out of alignment with design is a huge part of it. So in your body, this might look like neglect, self-loathing, or ambivalence that you're feeling in other areas of your life. And then it drifts into your body care. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, many women will take the frustration they feel with a lack of satisfaction or lack of control in certain areas of their life, and they'll turn it into excessive control over their bodies, which gives them a false sense of safety temporarily, right? I think many women have been there, done that, whether it's lasted for a long time or it's been a temporary season. Self-image likely is consistently low or feels like it's vacillating between low and haughty or self-righteous and judgmental. If you guys ever been on that pendulum swing where it's like, gosh, I just feel like I'm worse than everyone else. And because shame, which is what that is, feels so miserable, we instead say, but you know what? I'm better than so-and-so. And I'm intelligent and intellectual and I don't need to blah, blah, right? We create these identities and we do it so that we don't feel the shame of what we're actually internally knowing is something we haven't addressed. This leads us to judge ourselves or to try to forget whatever's going on with us to get out of the highs and lows, which is a cycle that never works, right? It's like low self-esteem to judgmentalness to denial and avoidance to low self-esteem to judge, right? Like it's like we don't want to be in that cycle. Relationships may feel the low boundaries or barbed wires that you have built around yourself for safety. They may feel like something you have to do out of duty, where even though you want to love someone for the right reasons, it feels fraught with misunderstandings, fatigue, fear, and shoulds, right? That's where the pendulum there swings between restriction, not being willing or able to open for either trauma reasons or almost out of a resentment and a retaliation. And that's how we feel we can exercise our power, to a desperation. Please love me. What do I have to do to get you to love me? What kind of horrifically toxic behaviors do I have to consistently tolerate just to have someone in my life? That's the relationship pendulum when a woman is out of sync. So does that sound familiar? I've been there. I'm guessing that at various points in various areas, you may have too. One of my clients told me coming into your program a few months ago helped change my mindset, helped me stop playing the victim, to open my heart and truly forgive. I love my husband so much, but my wall had been up so high, he had no chance to see me. How many of you feel like you shut down, right? And we're not talking here, okay, about like chemical, hormonal imbalances where it's a medicated kind of depression and you have to see doctors. No. I'm just talking about the mental cycles where it's so overwhelming or so painful or still so futile, right? Just so defeating before we even begin that we just give up and shut down. Maybe we try, we put forth a good faith push, We don't get the results we want during a certain, arbitrary time period we've given ourselves. So then we feel defeated and we back off and we close down. And that cycle, continually repeated, causes us at times, right, like this woman had previously been doing, to just completely wall up and back away from platonic, like friendships, close relationships with our family, if that's healthy for us, relationships that are romantic, within marriage, sexual, intimate relationships. We just kind of back away from everything slowly. And we're also internally backing away from ourselves when we do that. It feels like protection. It's actually cutting off life. Yes? Many women stay in that cycle. How many of you know women who have been in that cycle for decades, and it's like they never figure out how to break it? They might temporarily go on a diet. They might get excited and plan for a trip. They might, change their hair once, but by and large, the woman internally doesn't change. She just externally ages. Oof. Oof, right? We don't want to go there. We don't want to be that. We don't want, our 60s, 70s, 80s to look like the same stuck cycles we're experiencing in our 20s, 30s, 40s. And yet for many women, that's the reality. Is that all there is? Not if you're on a bombshell ascension path, not if you're on the bombshell journey, not if you were on the first part of the training. If you haven't, please go back and watch that. If you hear the initial invitation that there's more, that more is possible, yes, then it wakes you up to be, wait a second. I've bought in to BS. I've bought into lies, and totally understandable how we do this. Yes. We hear it from girlfriends, parents, sisters, brothers, men, women, just generic platitudes and culture about what life's like. And we just, the commute's hard, the weather's bad, the kid's sick, the dog dies. Like, we just give up and buy in that this is how it must be. But once you're aware that there's more, once you're aware that you have an archetype of an extremely powerful but open feminine woman to step into, the possibilities of life start to shift. These are a few quotes that I absolutely love. And I want you guys to understand, when I quote people, it doesn't always mean that I love everything about that person, okay? But I love everything about the quote in its limited existence. More women speaking up and seizing the helm of power can create its own momentum. It can change the culture that helps perpetuate those external forces. Now, obviously, this is part of a longer work that she has written somewhere. But I want you to catch this, right? I was just talking about essentially stagnation, and specifically internal stagnation. But how many of you know that when we as women settle internally in ourselves and how we allow ourselves to think, how we allow ourselves to care for ourselves, what we allow ourselves to create or not, what we allow ourselves to live out and experience or not, it perpetuates on like the bigger scale, right? It's a microcosm of a macrocosm, if you will, that allows the same thing, right? So if there are corruptions or toxicities or unacceptable practices in any other community, culture, workplace, church community, etc., us doing this internally allows that to be perpetuated externally. And in the same way, women who take back their power, not in an angry way, okay? We're going to address that in a second. We are not going to do that. I have, in fact, a list and a few slides of things we're not going to do. But not with anger, but with beauty and love, and yet determination and a beautiful internal grounding. When we do that internally, it forces cultural shifts, especially when we do it right, in my opinion, or well in the ways that I'm going to describe, and not just angry thrashing around, as sometimes women will feel is what powerful women look like. I don't think so. Another quote, I myself have never been able to find out precisely what feminism is. I think this is hilarious. I only know that people call me a feminist whenever I express sentiments that differentiate me from a doormat. This was written in the early 1900s. I think she's an author who might be worth looking up. I don't know much about her. But I love this, because one of the funniest things that happens when I describe my work to people is, oh my gosh, guys, it's hilarious. They're either like, yes, I'm such a feminist, as in them, right? And they're acting like that, therefore connects us, and they resonate with my work because they're a feminist. Or they hear the full context of my work and say, yes, you have got to save women from feminism. It's just like ruining their lives, it's cutting them off from men. It's making them not have any more children. It's like it's terrible, right? And I think it's hilarious because there are a few words that I think are so frequently misunderstood through limited connotations and conceptions as feminism. Yes. So I really enjoy this quote. I don't know what feminism is, but I know that when I talk about being empowered as a woman, being, no longer laying down and just taking it, suddenly that seems to be when people are like, oh, feminism. So do you want to call my work feminine empowerment, female empowerment? I don't particularly care what you call it. I call it truth. I call it alignment with a divine design. If that to you looks different from some of the angry cultural feminism out there, great. If that to you means female empowerment and that is by its nature the definition of feminism to you, cool. I don't get on that train. I don't fight that fight. To me, that's just a matter of semantics. I want to know where a woman's heart is and know that her actions are coming out of a place of health rather than a place of either anger or completely giving away her rights and power and voice, which leads us to this beautiful third quote. It took me quite a long time to develop a voice. And now that I have it, I am not going to be silent. I love that, Madeleine Albright. So the archetype of the bombshell, perfect segue. We're given so frequently, you can call it feminism or not, these two and sometimes even three versions of what you're allowed to be as a woman. Yes, you can be sexual and attractive, but don't forget that's for men, right? You do that in order to achieve an outcome with a guy. That's what we're taught. Or you can be the very good girl, the respectable, future homemaker, just basically raised to be the future cook and clean and mother. Nothing wrong with that. If that's your beautiful calling and you align with that, cool. Or you're the hard driving, power taking, career woman who has no soft side, has no ability of how to femininely interact with men and pick. Yes, I have met women in all three of those areas. The imbalanced version, I'm speaking specifically of the second one, which can be done beautifully, but the imbalanced version of those, none of them are very happy. Most of them are very easy to anger, right? So how did we even get to a position where there was a conception of woman that was so imbalanced, right? And this is why I love telling people about the concept of the bombshell, and where this started was during the World Wars, and specifically around the creation of the nuclear bomb. So these are some old pinup paintings that they're very easy to find. If you just get on Google, they're everywhere. There's so many versions. And they started connecting the idea of this explosive that was obviously very much discussed around World War II, right? Like all of the creation of it and the pros and the cons and the horror and the pride and all of these things around this awful weapon, right? Incredibly destructive, very powerful, and extremely feminine, sexualized women. Yes. And so now if you guys hear the word bombshell, it's probably in one of those three contexts: a very beautiful, stunning, often in a sexual sense, the way the world uses it, woman, a game-changing piece of news, right? Shocking revelation. Oh my gosh, information that totally alters the way people see the situation, or literally the casing for an explosive. Yes. So I like to instead take the power back from these misconceptions. Not that any of these are, inaccurate connotations. They're used in the world. But when I say bombshell, when I'm talking about a bombshell ascension, when I'm inviting you to step into a bombshell identity, when you're using your identity as a bombshell, as a decision-making matrix, it's a feminine, empowered woman who is not shut off the fact that she is also, in addition to all of the things, she is beautiful, sexual, female, feminine, who is the carrying case, the shell for something that changes the game, a message, a piece of news, or just love, or breaking people out of bondage, anything that alters reality. Yes, as a bomb would. So a woman who is an aligned, well-intentioned, woman who is powerfully altering reality because of what she's carrying within her. Yes, and has tremendous force, tremendous power, tremendous impact. Okay, that's what I'm talking about by the archetype of a bombshell. So if you can imagine, right, these different groups of women that I've described, it's easy to stumble into those communities. Yes. How many of you have accidentally kind of tripped and fallen into a group of women, maybe mothers, young, kind of, or older, honestly, sometimes women who really exist to just blame men, right? Like for everything, or blame other women, especially attractive or sexually activated women who are aligned with that side of themselves and their power, and right, like so women who are in very victim blame oriented mode, women who maybe pretend nice. Oof, this is one of the scariest groups. But behind your back, they will sabotage, they will slander, they will backstab, and they'll do it all with the sweetest smile on their face, right? And they're gathering as many people to be against, whoever they've decided is their target. Like there's so many groups of women or communities of women that aren't healthy, quite frankly. And then there are some that are, perfectly well-intentioned, but the goal within it, and this is not a problem because if you have that focus and that's all you want, that's cool. But they're just looking at one area, right? So women who are building businesses, for example, where their focus really is on numbers and metrics and are you productive and have you quadrated your, I don't even think that's a word, that's how much I don't do this, your schedule into, 2-minute increments so that every single moment can be used, but you don't have the fluidity and the spontaneity and the openness and the surrender and the vulnerability to then have an interaction with a man that is anything different than, here's your honey-do list. Please check off these 5 tasks by 11 p.m. when I will be too tired for intimacy. Thank you. Right? So you can find groups of women where they're hyper focused on just one element of a full feminine life. What I want to create here is a place where women are safe, they're not judged, they're not attacked, and we're not doing any kind of blaming or victim mentality. Not to say that you can't share what you've been through, but we're then going to always pivot into, therefore, what am I going to do about it, right? What do I want to create from the situation that I'm in? Yes. And we're also not going to be looking at only one facet of being a woman. We're not here just to talk about beauty or intimacy or relationships with men. We're not here just to talk about body care and getting extra weight off. We're not here just to talk about order and creating space and environments where you flourish and you ascend to a higher level of yourself just by changing the places you inhabit. We're not here just to talk about creating financial independence and additional income and empowerment and a legacy for your family. We're here to talk about all of it at the same time in the context of this full feminine bombshell identity. So I really like this quote from Beyonce. I want to build a community where women of all races can communicate and continue to support and take care of each other, right? No backstabbing, no harming, no judging, no petty behind the scenes, secret communication conversations. I want to give women a space to feel their own strength and tell their stories. That is power. I think that's beautiful. And again, a space where we can tell stories and then also not stay in the story, right? Like your story is not who you are. It's something that happened. And now who are you going to become with what God has shown you and led you through and allowed you to experience for becoming the woman who's on the assignment that he's given you. I can promise you that women working together, linked, informed, and educated, can bring peace and prosperity to this forsaken planet. Isn't that beautiful? That's so much the deep belief that I have that being a woman is and I had a beautiful woman who started working with me, and right after she got into one of the courses, which was game changing for her, right? Her initial reaction, like the next day after signing up, was, this is amazing. I always knew women were superior to men. No, right? No, we're not making up for being weaker, because we're not. We're not making up for, or we're not celebrating being superior. We're not. This is not a contest of who's inferior or who's not. And in fact, if you guys saw an Instagram video I did, and I've mentioned it a few other times, of this adorable 13-year-old who I'm kind of hopefully going to be able to speak into her life, one of the comments she made as I was giving her encouragement and empowerment and all of these reasons to think well of herself was, that's right, because we're better than guys. We're better than the boys, right? And I immediately corrected her, like, no, that's not the point. The point is a rising, a beautiful rising of all people. But women specifically have a design that allows us to do this with an efficacy that is different, not better than, but specifically designed to be powerful in ways that men can't be, which is fine because they have ways that we can't be. And that's what I want you to be released into, which is going to include a healing around any trauma that leads you to want to feel safer by either hiding and telling yourself you're in fear and you can't do it, or hiding in a different way and telling yourself that you can close off because you're superior and you don't need anyone else, right? We're not doing any of that. This is women working together, linked, informed, and educated. And in my mind, I like to add healed, freed, realigned with design. This isn't just handing you a toolbox. This is a deep transformational altering of anything that has gotten out of whack with truth. Yes? So a few things we're not going to do. We're not going to stay hard and limited. Have you guys ever been in a female empowerment group or community or chat or whatever, where their version of empowerment is hardness, right? Is like this toughness, is this survival mentality that, you know, the odds are against us and the world is out to get women, and it's been so hard and we've been through so much and no one understands, and they pretend to help, but they don't actually care. Sensations, feelings, thoughts like that are completely understandable based on many of the awful things that still happen around the world and even close to home, right? However, that is still a story in a way, right? Like it can be true 100%, but staying in it, creating a belief and then living out of that is how women stay, it's a gross word, but I like to use calcified, right? Like there's like a crust around the soft, beautiful feminine heart that heals, that brings life, that transforms, that attracts, that does all of these magical things that women are designed to do, because she's been hurt and she's decided to stay in the hurt because it feels like power, right? Which limits us. When we choose to stay hardened, when we choose to identify as a woman who's been through things, or a woman who's trying to make things better in a tough world, to toughen ourselves, we completely cut off massive parts of our femininity, which of course are going to affect our ability to create results, because it's like only operating with that one hand versus your other hand and your 2 feet. You know, there's only so much you can do when you've limited yourself from your total design. Another thing we're not going to do that I've already said, we're not going to hate on men. It serves no purpose, accomplishes nothing. Sharing what's happened, sometimes at the hands of men. How many of you want to raise your hand and say sometimes at the hands of other women? We're not here to blame. We're not here to play victim. We're here to be honest and open and vulnerable, and then decide what we want to do with that, realign with who we are, and move forward beautifully. We're not going to blame other women either, along the same lines. We're not going to reject opportunities for feedback and growth. That links in beautifully with staying hard and limited, where it's like, I've been through something, you don't understand it, it's impossible for me to change, the world is out to get me, you know, the odds are stacked against me. I have walked with women to some of the most unbelievably horrific circumstances, and by choosing to allow their heart to re-soften or stay soft, or maybe even find softness for the first time, that's how they've found their freedom, right? Through opening to, okay, what do I need to hear? Who do I need to be? What am I going to do from this, rather than staying in the pain for, I mean, some people, how many of you know people who are still stuck in something that happened decades before? Heartbreaking, understandable, not our goal here, okay? Similarly, we're not going to give up, and we're not going to stay in stuck cycles. Building a bombshell. So then, given all the things we don't want to do, what do we actually want to accomplish, and how are we going to build it, right? How are we going to create this identity that is truth, this identity that is in alignment with divine design? How did I do this for myself? Well, let me tell you real quickly, I've spent a lot in resources, right? On personal and business development, right? And just with whatever means I had, I understood the value of getting there faster, which I'll show you the secret shortcut to in a second. Over 15 years, right? Because before I started working with women, I started dealing with my own stuff, as we say, going through like, okay, well, where are my inaccurate beliefs creating results that I don't want? And that sounds like a simple question, but the process of doing that, especially because I was in the beginning doing it on my own. I didn't even know personal development existed. I didn't know a coach was a thing. I didn't have any books on how to heal the wounded feminine or anything like that. I had no clue what I was doing. I just knew that when I would be triggered and I would be upset, I could see myself shutting off from exactly what my heart longed for when I was not triggered and I was softened, right? And so I could feel those cycles where I would get myself stuck and I didn't want to be there anymore, but I didn't know what to do about it. 15 years later, dozens and dozens of conferences, events, retreats, intensive mentors. Like, I think I have finally gotten closer, significantly closer. And all of that work led to skill sets I'll never lose again, that if I could impart to you, I absolutely would. One is becoming action oriented. I was absolutely trained, raised, wait. And when you think you're ready, you're probably not. So wait some more. Yes. What happens? You just get old, right? The dreams you say you're going to go after someday never happen. I'm so sorry to be negative, but it's fact. The, trips you say you want to take never occur. Like life never is allowed because we decide we'll wait. As soon as I stopped waiting and I started taking action way before I felt ready, way even before I knew where resources of time or energy or availability were going to even come from, I just jumped because I knew in my spirit, like, this is it. This is the next one. And I'm scared crapless, but it's time. I've got to do it now. So when I became action oriented, life opened up beautifully. And the leaps that I took, like, it's kind of like build wings on the way down, or someone would be leaping with me, like that I hadn't met yet, and they would have resources that I needed. It's just the decision to act begins the whole process of becoming who we want to be. Similarly, self-trust, right? Because when you become action-oriented, that means there's someone who's probably not action-oriented, right? If you're doing the thing, then the default before your decision to do the thing was not doing the thing, right? If you guys can follow that. So most likely through cultural upbringing, family of origin, peers, whoever's around you, your workplace norms, there's someone or some cultural, just some even assumption in your mind that it's probably wisest to not do the thing. I probably shouldn't, but everything in me says yes, but nobody else is doing this, right? So learning to trust myself in the wake of other opinions, advice that just didn't resonate, but that was kind of, overbearing at times. One of the most important things I've learned I will never let go of again. Similarly, fast decision-making, right? So not just action-oriented, but like doing the thing when it's available. There's so many women who I meet who will describe to me situations where they had an opportunity, whether it was with a man that they loved or a career that they could have jumped into, a trip that they could have gone on, from the simple to the lifelong. And there was a window. And because they got in their heads and weren't sure what internal voice to trust, they didn't give full credit to their gut that said yes. And instead they started thinking, well, so-and-so says I should do this. And technically, if I look at the logistics and, the pros and cons, it doesn't seem like it's completely a really high wise risk, like whatever, right? They got in their heads. They didn't self-trust. They weren't action-oriented. And essentially, I hate to say this because I know some people don't like to hear this. There's always another chance. It's true, but it might not be the same chance, right? It might just be a similar chance where we're like, this time I've learned my lesson. I'm not messing it up this time around. But like the clock times out on certain things in life. Yes? How many of you have had an urge to call someone or reach out to someone and God forbid, then they pass away and you never did it because life was busy or they probably don't want to hear from me anyway or whatever. The most valuable things I've learned in life, guys, are to trust my gut, my intuition, which to me is the Holy Spirit coming in. It has to align with my beliefs as well. But like if it's a yes or a no, I go with it and to move quickly. Now, if my gut says wait, then I wait. Right? But if my gut says go, I don't wait to make sure that I've cross-checked everything. I say yes and I figure it out. And I can always, say no later, right? Part of this was recognizing that my self-trust allowed me to change my mind. And therefore I had the freedom to confidently begin something because I could confidently decide to get out of it later. Yes? So these are the most important things I've learned. And again, the investment instead of the cost, right? Which is it's just a risk taking willingness to see something that is going to pay off, that's going to create life, that's going to open opportunities, that's going to allow for experiences rather than everything feels scary, everything feels scarcity, everything feels stuck and lack. And I mean, it sounds like logic in the moment. And if there weren't so many people who we get to watch go through their lives, never growing, never changing, never experiencing, that would be very believable. That just stay small, play it safe, don't invest like anything, time, energy, effort, money, relationships, nothing. It sounds savvy. They've got all kinds of arguments for it. But when we watch the results of the people who live that way, and again, this is it's a little harsh, but all they do is get older. And they always have an excuse for why it hasn't happened for them yet. It's life, or it's the economy, or it's the government, or it's their spouse, or it's their children, or it's their schedule, or it's their schooling, or it's their health, or whatever. It's really just them not saying yes in whatever perhaps partial, small beginning step they can, but there's not that first beginning. As I have worked with all these mentors, both in business and in personal life, and most of my development has been personal development. I've done a lot of business development too, but I've tended toward personal development more than I think many women who run online businesses have. And I think that's why I get to teach women mastery in areas that I truly have mastered, that I haven't seen a lot of other online business owners master yet. And I really like to stick to teaching what I know and what I've mastered personally. So I've definitely tended that way. And in the business and in the personal development world, what I find with women who have multifaceted success, and even just small success, like in whatever areas they have success, whether it's with their body, with their relationships, with their business, or all of it, yes, they make fast and personally led, aligned decisions. That's the hallmark of successful women, I find. And I didn't come to these events because, remember, I didn't know personal development existed. I just started stumbling into it, and then I was just looking around watching. And as I watched the women who kept ascending versus the women who would stagnate and stay stuck, it was that self-permission around self-trust, not going with what everybody else said they should do, but knowing what was a yes and what was a no, and then giving themselves permission to take quick, aligned action around that. And sometimes it's waiting. Most of the time I find with those women, it's not waiting. It's going in some way. So when I figured that out, I thought, okay, I get it, right? But what would it look like for this to be all the way through a full picture of femininity, right? Because again, these conferences, events, seminars I would go to, they would generally be focused on one element, right? It'd be women in business, women starting their own online business, or it would be health and wellness and fitness, or it would be relationships and opening to men and your feminine soul and all that kind of stuff, or it would be spiritual life and your relationship with God and your understanding of the Bible and theology, etc. Right? I wanted the full picture. Does anybody else out there want the full picture? Right? I don't want like one piece of the pie. I want the whole pie, right? And then I'm going to eat it one piece at a time, maybe, but like I want access to something that is addressing the complete, complex, comprehensive picture of total femininity. So around that time, through so much prayer, so much seeking, both learning from other people, but also going inside, right, through that self-trust and being like, Lord, what do I need to know? What would it look like for me to become a completely, fully empowered woman? And then what would this look like that would be possible for all women? And that's when the Bombshell pillars came so quickly. So these are 12 pillars that build on each other, that create an incredibly empowered, open, feminine, assignment-led, mission-focused woman. Pillar 1. I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. If you want more, well, I'll show you how to get more. But pillar 1 is an intimate friendship with God. Pillar 2 is commitment to purity. For those of you who are freaking out about that, what that means is purity of heart, right? I mean, yes, purity of food, purity of behavior, purity of motive, absolutely. But if you know God well, it's the heart motive that Christ cherishes most, right? I could go on and on about that. But anyway, some women will come to me and they'll be like, but I have had this past. No. Who are you right now? What's your heart before God? Pillar 3, unshakable confidence and security. Pillar 4, total body love. Pillar 5, openness to full vulnerability. How terrifying does that sound even to say? Pillar 6, powerful beauty that points toward heaven, which, you know, for many women, they're raised to be told that their beauty points people away from heaven just by existing. So they better cover it, not wear makeup, hide it, apologize for it. Don't cause people, to etc. It's a mess. Pillar 7, delight in and respect for sex and your calling, your sexual calling, but it couldn't fit on the slide. Pillar 8, deep love for and understanding of men. Pillar 9, purpose and passion. Pillar 10, financial independence. Pillar 11, social awareness and savvy. And pillar 10, allure, class, and chic. So as you noticed, you probably already figured it out, but these are moving from most essential to less important, right? It's high priority, your relationship with God, the divine, right? Your spiritual connection with truth. how you dress, allure, class, chic, your ability to handle yourself in different international contexts, and not as important at all, right? But nevertheless on the list, right? Social awareness, a grace, a ability to just walk into any room and make people feel loved and seen and heard and be both true to yourself and appropriate for that context, but obviously not as important as what we began with in the lower numbers. Yes? So that's quite, that's a lot. 12 areas. It's not even 12 little mini tasks or individual words. It's like 12 massive areas of a woman's life. Your relationship with sex, your relationship with men, your relationship with money, your relationship with your body. These are huge. And each one requires a path to mastery, let alone all 12. So how do you make sure you're on track in the midst of what feels like a maze? This, in my opinion, and through what I've accomplished as I do this work myself, is exactly how you get it done. One, you identify the feeling of the life you're going for and who embodies it, and you follow that person. So like I was saying in the first Ascension training, I was speaking to my friend, actually, Eileen Wilder, those of you who know her, and she was having a conversation backstage with another woman who I won't name, very, very, very high level women making many, many, many millions of dollars a year. And they were noting with each other that they were the only other person they had found who was at that income level who really enjoyed her life, who loved waking up in the morning and had a great relationship with her body and with men and with her girlfriends and had the full picture and that degree of income. It's quite rare, right? How many of you find, perhaps business coaches are so easy to pick on, and I'm so sorry, but so frequently women will get into masculine energy when they teach business, and it's do, go out there and attain it and hit the numbers and get the metrics. And it's like, everything in me wants to hit the snooze button on that, right? Because it's not the feeling that I want to have in my life. I don't want to get up with the need. And I used to do this. So I'm not speaking of something I don't understand. I did this through academia. If you guys watched the Paris reveal, I went a little bit into my nerdy background, but I know how to get up and have a crush it mentality. And I know how crushing that is to the feminine nature, which is intuitively led and very pleasure and delight based and soft and open and does things that frequently don't make sense, but feel totally aligned and lead to synergistic game-changing results, but aren't following some kind of metric-led checkbox system, right? So when I want to follow a woman, I don't want someone who's in that masculine energy. And I often find that when a woman is in that kind of energy, the more feminine mastery areas of the relationship with her body, relationship with sex, relationship with men, relationship with God, relationship with beauty and other women is like a bit of a wasteland at times. I don't want that, right? So your first step when you're trying to get through the maze is not settling for following someone who is only operating out of one piece of the feminine pie. And no judgment at all. We can be friends, right? Maybe. But definitely am not going to follow her to where she's going because I don't want that destination. Right? Do you guys know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I don't want to hate men and my life and my body and having had sex and, no, I don't, no, So finding first, before you even know who you could possibly follow for this, just going internal for a moment and saying, how do I want to feel in my life? I want to feel excited. I want to feel passionate. I want to feel lit up. I want to feel aligned. I want to feel an integrity. I want to feel authentic. I want to feel sincere. I want to feel like the people around me are supportive and not backstabbing. I want to feel able to be beautiful and also able to be badass. I want life. I want to wake up and start singing and not even noticing that I've started singing because I'm just overwhelmingly joyful. That's how I want to feel. Now, what other women are doing that and are a few steps ahead of me? That's step one. Then you lay a clear path and a game plan for when things don't go as planned and you stay on it, right? So when you find a woman or you find a method or you find something like that, it's like, tell me, give me the how. What is in it? If it's more feminine and intuitively led, it might feel a little uncomfortably loose, to be honest, right? How many of us feel safe, understandably, and even by design within masculine structures? That's beautiful. But sometimes we accidentally pull over the fact that we feel comfortable in that to requiring that when we're trying to change our life and we're following a mentor. It's like, well, I don't just need 12 steps. I need 12.1, point A, point BB, and this is what I do at 10:07 a.m. on Tuesdays, but it's very different from 10:07 a.m. on Thursdays, right? We feel safe in over guidance, like a over management. You guys ever notice that? In fact, I find that when I'm in the most elevated coaching programs that I participate in as a client are often the most nebulous, right? There's like the least tangible how-to or guidance, or like the smallest worksheets. And you might say, oh, you're not getting the value for your money, but the point of the value is being mentored by someone who's mastered her spirit-led intuition and self-trust and is giving you that gift, versus writing down her assignment and giving it to you. That's not your assignment. Her job as a coach and my job as a coach is to help you develop into yours. Right? So yes, there's a path for mastery, basic mastery in these areas of life. But then it's a matter of integrating into what works for you, for your life, for your assignment. Yes? So you find a clear path and a game plan when things don't go as planned to refer to, and you stay on it, but it has to be aware enough of the comprehensiveness of being a woman that there's wiggle room for yourself and for your calling and for your life and for you learning how to be in mastery versus just mimicking someone else's mastery. You begin by mimicking certain basics, and then you give yourself the artistic permission to create what is meant for you. Yes? You surround yourself with the kind of accountability and support you need, and you stick with it. Yes? It helps to have women around you who are cheering you on instead of trying to pull you back. Enough said. You continually check into your path and how things are feeling as you go, and you keep checking in. And what I like to do personally is I've had a call with one of my mentors earlier before I got on this call, is have someone who creates that space, that container for me. And it's literally on my calendar so that it can't become something that I ignore. And that has kept me on a path that is so aligned when I had so many opportunities to get off and give up and stay in a stuck cycle, right? Okay. There it is. Mentorship. A mentor empowers a person to see a possible future and believe it can be obtained. I like that quote. I would like to add to that quote that a mentor also shows you the general roadmap and the tiny tweaks that allow you to create mastery in your own style for your own assignment. They're not just helping you believe that it's possible. They're giving you the how-to a heck of a lot faster, because one of the only true shortcuts in life is finding an expert and apprenticing under them. Or, otherwise said, getting a mentor is the shortcut to success. Every time I've made a massive leap forward, I have found a woman who's accomplishing what I want to accomplish, making sure that she's also flourishing in the other areas of life. And I've just like latched on, don't leave me. I'm not staying where I am. Take me with you. And it is like jet fuel. Okay. Now, the stuff that you guys have been waiting for. The 4 steps to how to create or navigate a new life era. I went through these years ago on a training, different time. And I loved revisiting this because I've added to it. And more importantly, I've more deeply understood what it entails in each of these areas. At that point in my life, I was like, clean out your closet. Great. Cleaning out your closet can be a massive emotional purge for sure, right? But now I see the areas of life that these 4 steps pertain to that are even more important. So, shall we dive in? This is step 1, cleanse. Clean something thoroughly inside and out. And this can be part of your physical space or your emotional space. In other words, your beliefs, your mindset, your mental thoughts. I recommend both because I find it creates a synergistic effect. Yes. One of my favorite mentors taught me to create beautiful spaces. Now, I've heard other women give different instructions around how to tidy your house or how to declutter or how to beautify your home. And it's not that they haven't resonated. They sound great, but they haven't worked. And I don't know if it's my personality or psychology or whatever, but setting a timer for an hour and only putting away books or something, some category of thing. It sounds like a great strategy. Like it could be the strategy that changes everything, but it never worked for me. And the reason I realized finally was I would do that, and then I would be tired, and yet I would look around and I wouldn't feel like I'd accomplished much, because even though technically the books were put away, there was still clothing everywhere, and there were paper piles, and there was trash, and there was, and so I didn't have what my soul craved, which was an example, evidence of beauty, evidence of creating something better. All I saw is a still messy room that just happened to not have loose books around it or whatever, right? Whatever example. So instead, when I found a mentor who taught me to create beautiful vignettes, right? Who, instead of saying clear all the papers, was like, pick the top of your dresser. And even if you have to move what's on the dresser over to the top of the chair, and the whole room still isn't clean, and you just relocated some of the clutter, you clean the top of the dresser, you wipe it down. If you could know me, and my dressers are all mirrored, right? You put a vase of flowers, you light a candle, and then your eye has something to behold, something to witness as evidence that you have created a change. Do you guys feel that difference? What we're looking for is not a checklist of behaviors that don't give us fulfillment. We're looking to slowly but surely create beauty and truth in every corner of our lives. That's what a cleanse actually is. And that's the fastest path I know to get there, is to completely do one micro, small, miniature almost area that you can then look at. And then all you have to do is maintain that miniature area. And then you do another area. And before you know it, you have one room that's almost always intact. And then you have another room that's almost always intact, right? And you're slowly mastering your environment. Now that's physical. But what happens internally when you recognize, when you see, when you walk through your home, and as you pass, in fact, if you find one that's in your normal line of sight, that's the good one to start with. But that you prove to yourself, basically, as you walk by every day looking around your house, you kind of can't help it. You notice, oh, that still looks so great. You're showing yourself that you are a higher level version of yourself, right? If you had a story that you are disorganized, I used to have this story, disorganized, messy, can't get things together, always can't find stuff. Do you guys know, in the last 2 years, I have created, in spite of logistical hecticness in many ways in my world, beautiful spaces, extraordinary systems, simply through, usually it starts with a point of frustration, like, okay, non-negotiable, never again, this is not happening anymore. Focusing on a micro change and making it permanent, like by keeping it so incredibly small and specific, I'm able to maintain that. Right. And so now that's been able to expand into almost every area of my life. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I travel so much, it's almost bananas, right? It's like, thank goodness I love flying. I'm not sick of it yet. And I don't think I ever will be. I love airports and flying. But I have gotten certain systems down so that is so slick, and that has changed my identity, the way I think about, the way I see myself, which has changed the way I then make decisions in the rest of my life, because now I see myself as empowered, as organized, as full of order, as beauty and peace and, not chaos follow me everywhere I go. That's how I see it. And that's then how people have started to perceive me around me too, because of these micro changes I've made in my environment, by cleaning out spot by spot versus in massive topics that felt overwhelming, and then I couldn't complete, and then I didn't have visual evidence that I'd done anything at all, and then I would give up, right? If this is something you're struggling with, please revisit the replay and watch that again about 10 times, because that changed my life, because then I could apply it to other areas. But what it did about the way I saw myself was the most powerful change. Okay. I think I covered all of that. Now here's a couple other areas, right? Clutter and spaces I just went through extensively. Body care is another cleansing area. And I find it's so much, guys. It's so much. And at the end of this, I will show you how I take women deeper through this, because I would love if I could just give you like a quick phrase, or the one food, or the one workout tip. There's no such thing for the degree of mastery that I want you to have in your body. Okay. Like I think I referred to it at the beginning of this training, just so that I close that loop. I got on the scale this morning, like just out of like curiosity, I had a little extra time and was like, why not? And I'd lost 3 pounds. Like I didn't even try, and it's all in the healthy range. So nobody freak out on me. I'm as high nutrient as many people are. Eat kind of whatever I feel like, exactly to when I'm no longer hungry. Stop. And people around me, frequently don't love the methods that I use to do that. Or it's not that they don't love them, but it's like, it seems weird to them. Why wouldn't you finish all the food on your plate? Why wouldn't you, why would you go to dessert before you finish your dinner? All that kind of stuff. But I've learned body mastery. I've learned hormones. I've learned how to master my mindset, and not even through self-control, but through healing and love and pure pleasures and all the things that I teach women in this area. So I would love it if I could give you, just like I did for clutter and your environmental space, a one little minute thing to change to create body care. I think if I were to, it would be cleaning out any self-berating. Anything at any time, no matter what you eat, no matter how much you eat, no matter when, no matter where, no matter with who, no matter how much you do or don't work out, any self-berating, self-condemnation absolutely has to go. That was the first step I made. Did I lose weight immediately from that? 10 years ago? No, not at all. But that was the essential first step that finally got me out of that cycle that I couldn't break. Just deciding, I don't care if I eat an entire cake by myself. I'm not going to beat myself up for it. That began, that clean out of that habit to shame myself after anything regarding my body started to, and now, I wouldn't do that. It wouldn't feel good. Right. But I don't not do it because, oh my gosh, I'd feel terrible if I did. No, I don't like to feel terrible. So I don't do things that feel terrible. But I started that by not doing the thing that felt terrible, which was beating myself up after anything that I did. And then I could start from a place of unconditional self-love to love my body well. Okay. Decision-making, same thing, right? It's like the thoughts that linger in your mind, the decisions you haven't yet made. Now, there are sometimes waiting periods. There are sometimes moments when you feel in your spirit, you need clarity. You need to process it. You need to think on it. You need to let it sink in so the emotions can kind of chill out and you can make a clear decision from a good space. Absolutely. But never making the decision is like internal clutter in your body, in your mind, in your life. It will bury you alive. Learn to make decisions. And in fact, great connections have been made between physical clutter in a home and someone who's procrastinating on decision making, which is one of the, if you guys know the life-changing magic of tidying up, a couple funny things in that book, but overall I love it, right? Like she recognized it was not self-trust, not action-oriented, and it was just compiling. And when instead you start to cut and you make decisions and you trust yourself and you know, if this doesn't work out, I can fix it in the future. I can change my mind. I can buy another one. And you start making decisions, everything starts to clear out. And when everything starts to clear out, you have space to build what you were always meant to build. First, we have to get rid of all the crap that's built up through misbeliefs, through unmade decisions, through self-berating. It goes. Yes, friends, agreed? It goes. Today it goes. Step 2, once you clean, and of course, these are all, they tend to overlap. They tend to kind of, they play in with each other. It's not like, okay, now I'm done with the clean out. Now I'm starting boundaries. They weave in with each other. But once you have established a new norm, right? Like, for example, the clutter I was describing, when you've got a clear dresser top or something, the new boundary is to maintain this beautiful new norm, new level, new excellence that you've achieved. You want it to stay, yes? Without getting into self-berating, without getting into shaming, without getting into anger or anything like that. Just notably making it a priority to continually do the thing you did the first time because it worked so well. Yes. So setting new boundaries with yourself and with others. Review your current boundaries if you haven't yet. Write them out. This is, it's tricky. Okay. So I do advise this, but I do it in a certain way with clients because sometimes when women start to sit down and try to write a list of boundaries, two things happen. One of two things happens. One, they have no clue what a boundary might be. And they just they sit in front of a blank page, they don't even know what it looks like. They sure as heck don't have the courage to write down what they'd actually like. They maybe even can't access that desire because for so long they haven't let themselves acknowledge what isn't working, so that it's like not even just a blank canvas, like exciting, but a blank page, like drawing a blank. Okay. That happens. Or women will get into, and I see them do the same thing when they make lists of what they want in a man, by the way. So specific and so rigid and so impossible to obtain that they're sabotaging themselves by setting a standard for the impossible, which will never be met, which will lead to perpetual disappointment, right? Like if you want everyone in your life to behave a certain way so you can be happy, it is not going to happen. That is not a boundary. That's a pipe dream. All right. So we do boundaries differently here. Can you enforce them? Have they weakened? How is your energy around them? All these kinds of questions we look at once we actually get something on the page. What boundaries do you need to set with yourself for showing up in your life the way you want to and keep telling yourself that you will? And again, remembering that boundaries are not just things we want other people to do, but new standards for ourselves, and always beginning with the non-negotiable new boundary you're going to have with yourself of unconditional self-love, so you can create rather than being in that berate, fail, self-shame, avoid cycle, and then you avoid it for so long that you get mad at yourself. So you berate yourself. So you push really hard, but then it's not able to be maintained because it was done in an anger energy that just isn't going to last. Like, there's a specific way of doing this that works. And there's a lot of ways that don't. A few other boundary keys. These are things that, yes, I am going to say it. Women struggle with, okay? They very frequently struggle with. And when they finally recognize the power that they have available to them in this area, it often is addressed then in too much of an anger energy, right? When women realize that they want to take ownership and they're done with feeling controlled and it's time to build their financial power, and maybe they have, baggage or programming that they need to overcome, they can get into that harsh, closed off, hardened energy that I was describing at the beginning. And I see many women who do this. They'll go through much of their life, right? Based on whatever watershed bombshell moment they had that made them wake up and realize that they have a right to these things, right? That they have authority over declaring these things or dealing with these things. And then it's almost like there's a grieving period for all the years where they didn't know. Yes, which is okay, but we don't want to stay there forever. And there's that that anger, either self-blame or blaming others, or just, you're pissed, right? And women will stay in that sometimes. This is going to be intense, but they'll stay in it forever sometimes. Women I meet who have whatever kind of background they have, and then they have this watershed moment when they realize that they have the right to ownership, they don't get to be controlled, they can step into financial power, and they might have a lot of baggage to work through that got them in that place in the first place. They get so overwhelmed by the sense of injustice of what has maybe happened to them or what they've allowed to have happened to them that they close off. And they almost never reopen because they didn't have their power for so long that now the pendulum swings too far and they stay so empowered feeling that they can't reopen a softened, trusting, vulnerable, feminine heart. And often those women stay alone for the rest of their lives, right? Because especially if you want to create a relationship with a man, there has to be a trust and a surrender and a softening. When I work with women in dating, and they'll list out to me what some guy's doing that they don't like, blah, blah, blah. And we're looking for legitimate signs and lack of change, like concerns. Yes. But a lot of times the things that she'll describe to me, my response to her is nicer than this. I phrase it more softly. Don't worry. But you got to chill out. You know what I mean? Like, you're expecting things from him that any human would feel suffocated by, So it's this balance between being in your power and yet being a human and letting other people be a human too, right? So we're setting boundaries that aren't iron, steel walls. Yes, they're like those beautiful, velvet admission ropes or something. They can be lifted and lowered and you're in control, but it's not shutting people out. Yes. Step 3, re-image. The way you perceive yourself as a person is what's going to create your entire life. It's one of the most valuable things one of my mentors taught me. And it's quite a sentence that requires quite a bit of unpacking. But essentially, when you choose to see yourself in your environment in the way you want it to be, without the self-loathing, that's essential. Gosh, that's why I say it so much. It's essential. Without the self-loathing, without the self-blame. When you learn to begin with a creator's mind of excitement rather than looking back at the time that was lost or the waste or anything like that, then the world becomes your playground. Yes? When you look in the mirror, what's the number one thing you'd like to change? This is a quick exercise I usually lead women through. Pick a quick win, do it this week, right? Maybe your hairstyle, maybe whether or not you wear makeup or how you wear it, maybe the color of the shirts that you tend to default to, maybe whether or not you put on any fun piece of jewelry or not. A longer goal for your image is your new self boundary. Usually for many women, that's around body care and body love. And that could even just be massages or baths or getting enough sleep at last. It doesn't have to be what we're used to around body care, which is work out harder or more or eat less or better. And then identify the 5 spaces in your home that you can see the most. That's the clutter exercise again. And it's the same thing of not just clearing, right? Like some people will do like I said, one item, clear it all. You're creating a new vision of your life by just beautifying one spot. And then this is also referring to, too, doing it on your physical self. So when you look not just at your home, oh my gosh, it's becoming more beautiful. You look in the mirror and you're starting to see the woman you want to be looking back at you rather than old defaults. Other keys in this area: confidence, attraction, beauty, connections. There's so much that becomes possible to women when they build an identity and a self-image around a full and complete feminine that is healed, right? We're not just painting on makeup so that people like us more. We're not faking confidence so that we get the promotion. This is like a deep level of work, but it begins with sometimes and includes certainly the external things that our eyes are cueing our brain to say, hey, our reality, right? So if we decide we want to be taking better care of ourselves, we want to see ourselves as a woman who's doing different things, and then we keep looking in the mirror and saying the same thing, we'll stop doubting even our own goals. It essentially kills self-trust, right? Because you have a longing and there's no action toward it. So then when you have future longings, you have an attitude of dismissal, defeat, right? With women who want to be in a relationship and that never happens, and usually it's from total lack of action, not always, but frequently, right? Like after a while, they almost disdain, and there becomes a deep pain around a longing and a desire that has never been brought to fruition because they look at their life and nothing is shifting. So we're shifting the external to give you evidence that things are changing. And then we're shifting the internal so that it can be maintained from a beautiful internal mental space. Yes? And then the final step, before we get into some really fun stuff at the end here, is step 4, commit. Find a way that works for you and hold yourself to your new standard. You have to know yourself, right? And you have to know what form of accountability works for you. I don't like being told what to do, like at all. I really, 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 really don't. And like, if you have heard me talk about the 4 tendencies, Gretchen Rubin's personality evaluation, where she figures out how people are motivated, right? I'm the rebel type, which I didn't expect, but once I read the definition, it makes absolute sense. It has to be aligned with my identity. Yes, I'm not going to do it because you want me to. I'm not going to do it because everyone else is. I'm not going to do it because I have to do all of the research. It has to be a gut and a yes. Like, is that something Jackie does, or is that not something Jackie does? And if it is, you can't stop me. And if it's not, you can't force me, right? So you have to figure out what, I don't like the word provokes, but it's what's coming up, what almost provokes you to become the person you want to be most effectively. One of the things that works really well for me is a ping to a credit card, right? It's like, yes, I want to make sure I use that, right? I want to make sure I get to that gym. I want to make sure I get that massage this month. I want to make sure I use that radio station subscription. I want to, whatever it is, right? It's like, it's not an affront. I'm the one who chose it. It felt great. It still feels great, but it's a reminder to act on what is aligned with who I want to become, what I want to experience, what I want to enjoy. So that for me, I don't know about you, is very effective. Yes. Also putting myself in an inspiring and beautiful vortex or physical space so again, right? So one of the most effective ways to do this, and it's funny because as I do this, we're a week away from Thanksgiving, you guys know. And so many people, God bless them, I disagree, are against using phones, etc., devices during family gatherings. And I understand, right? Because the intention is, maybe they're elders, you want to be present. Maybe, this is one of the rare times you even see these people, and that's beautiful, and that's wonderful, and I agree. However, in certain contexts, especially for younger people, I find it, children even, where there's an environment that is not healthy, and yet they can't yet logistically get out. Having a beautiful, friendly, supportive, happy, healthy, and that's essential, right? Nothing toxic or destructive or dangerous, but somewhere lovely that they can escape to when their actual physical surroundings are less than to be desired is, I think, a beautiful thing. And when I was beginning my journey, being mentored by incredible people, my environment was not always under my control. And sometimes I really didn't like it. And I would beautify it as much as I could, or I would find and create spaces of peace and beauty. But there was only so much I could do, right? But I could log on to a portal created by someone else who was living out the life of the feeling and the results that I wanted and felt aligned with. And suddenly I had changed my environment just by giving myself access to the internet, right? To an online portal where the people were thinking the way I wanted to think and doing the things I wanted to do. The vibe, right? How many of you have ever been in a physical space with just a really less than ideal vibe, but logging on instead to somewhere where people are kind and supportive and action oriented and fast decision making and creating beauty and living a gorgeous life and making a difference? It was like a respite from reality until it became my reality. So those are the things I did to hold myself on a path. Yes. And tangibly, practically, it created incredible relationships. It included coaching, right? It gave me that feedback loop where I would be able to go to someone and say, here's what I'm experiencing. Here's my reality currently. I don't even know where I want to go yet necessarily, but then we would get clarity on where I wanted to go. How do I get to where I want to go from where I am in a way that preserves the feeling and the enjoyment of life that I most highly value, right? So coaching, mentorship to mastery. And over years, having those setups for commitment that worked for my personality have created results in these areas beyond what I ever thought would be possible, certainly this quickly. Okay, your next step, right? Knowing yourself, feeling if something will work for you to grow and not plateau, which is the goal. Yes, this is something I have done for a long time because, like I showed you guys with those 12 pillars, the full context of a bombshell is so large, right? It's so comprehensive that that's great because we're making sure that we're not just looking at one piece of the feminine pie and ignoring the rest of our life, but it can feel overwhelming. And women would come to me with a relationship issue, but that would also then, include some kind of body issue, which would always inevitably be connected to some kind of life logistics that they didn't see how they could adjust, which then led to a belief system, which created default coping mechanism behaviors. Like it became this whole cycle, right? It's never in isolation, which is why if a woman is so heavily weighted toward only creating money, it's so easy for the rest of her life to drift away, right? To fall apart. Whereas when you're looking at things in a comprehensive context, not only does it address everything, but it actually fixes the issue that you're coming for in the first place more effectively because it's creating an environment and a structure around it that will maintain that new norm rather than we're going to put a Band-Aid on this right now. I'm going to tell you to try harder. And then because we haven't created the full life around it to continue to hold that up, right? It's going to fall through very quickly. Yes. So when women kept coming to me with multifaceted, complex desires that they wanted to create or things they wanted to change, the Bombshell Mentorship was born because we needed a way to create guidance and support on this full context of a woman, whereas I was previously only coaching on certain areas. And we would inevitably lead to other things, but we weren't technically talking about that, and I hadn't created content for that yet. This is where everything came to live. What is the Bombshell Mentorship? Your secret weapon for a God-honoring life, well lived and beautifully navigated that makes everyone marvel. How does she do it so well? How many of you have heard someone say that about you? It's one of those moments where you're like, wow, I've done the thing, and I'm not even done yet. But it's incredible to be finally and suddenly aware that you've walked what you've walked so far pretty darn well. And that sets you on a good trajectory for the rest. The Bombshell Mentorship includes access to 12 monthly video trainings each year, probably even more than that. This is like 2.0, deepening your knowledge and availability to flourish and availability in all 12 pillars and beyond. One group coaching call. There's always a way to ask anonymously. Worksheets, absolutely. A lifetime community, an optional private Facebook group. The cool thing about 2.0 is that I'm going to be including guest experts. So there are the areas that I've mastered. There are other areas that I have not yet mastered. And I'm very excited to bring in people who are very, 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 very good at what they do in those areas. Okay, so a lot of the focus on the mentorship in this 2.0, like I said in the first Ascension training, is going to be around breaking basically anything in your life that is holding you back from your assignment without getting into that overly masculine, protective, angry, victim-oriented, push harder, cold version that some women stumble into when they feel like they're going to take ownership. We're not going to go there. But we're also not just sitting back passive, letting things happen to us, not creating things. This is active openness. This is productive femininity. It's going to be beautiful. So a lot on income creation, a lot on, setting up business structures. There's going to be quite a money focus in the mentorship, quite frankly, from now on, because I don't have a course that focuses on that, because I feel, although it's probably coming, it's been requested many times, but it's fluid, right? Like any of the other areas, but particularly this one, as life changes, it's fluid. And then of course you want it to grow. And there's so many different ways to do it, right? Like attaining sexual mastery or mastery in intimacy is like, there's a path, right? And I lead women through that all the time, very easily, over and over, like clockwork. But to create income is one of those areas of assignment that I think is much more fluid. Yes, some of you are called to create online businesses. And that may sound narrow, but if you are in the world of online business, you know that that is a very broad term, right? Some people run digital agencies. Some people are copywriters and virtual VAs. Some people create e-commerce brands. Some people don't create e-commerce brands. They just become e-commerce middleman kind of people. Some people do kind of coaching, branding, author work like I do. Some people, there's just so many ways, and that's just internet business. How about like creating and selling jewelry on Etsy or art or photography? Like there's so much, and that's just one way, And then there are experts on things that I am just not well-versed in, right? Like women who have dealt with women who've gone through trauma or narcissistic abuse or any kind of, toxic relationships. Women who have trained in that extensively are going to be coming and doing guest coaching. Women who help women with hormonal rebalancing, with all of these aspects that I personally am not trained in, are going to come and provide incredible content to this, so that every single month you have this extraordinary suite of comprehensive guidance, support, and then the most beautiful part of this, because there are 2 tiers of this, but this is what's available right now, is a one-on-one call with me each month. And I love my business coaches so much. When they saw that I was doing this for this monthly rate, they almost killed me, but they didn't, because they love me so much. So one call with me every month. In addition to all of this, you can be heard, total confidentiality, absolute privacy, any part of the total bombshell context, right? Some women who are joining this are already interested more in like a business coaching. But then if something happens to come up, or the relationship with their body or the relationship with God, we go there. We can move in this entire bombshell concept of a full woman. So I'm so excited about that, because that is the degree and the specificity of mentorship. How many of you have been on a group coaching call and you're trying to be vulnerable, but you're kind of still holding back some details, right? When it's private and it's one-on-one and it's not going to be recorded or put in a course portal or anything, it's just you and me. You're completely safe. We can be completely open. And that allows us to laser on exactly what's happening, exactly what needs to be done. So I'm so excited for that. And then the behind the scenes is a new addition as well, of me talking a little bit more about how I'm running my life in logistical ways. You guys kind of see the quick little snapshots and selfies on social media where I'm traveling or I'm at events, but what am I setting up to allow that to happen so frequently and so fluidly? These systems that I've created, but not from a rigid structure, a feminine, fluid, open, and what's my mindset around all of that? How am I running my life? And allowing it to ramp up at quite a rapid speed, both logistically, externally, and in my own ascension and awareness and mindset. Because how many of you know when you're hitting a next level, like we talked about in the first training, there's that death and rebirth cycle where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this, right? Maybe I just won't. That's the solution. I just won't, right? So like I go through that all the time too. In fact, I'm kind of in the midst of one at the moment, right? It's like It's a thing. So what am I doing to make sure I never stay stuck, but also don't close off and get like hyper focused masculine to create this full concept in my life? Okay, so Bombshell mentorship by itself, $297 a month for this level where you're also getting intense one-on-one support, or the painful discount of $1,997 a year. Now I'm going to go through a couple of things that are included with this, but I don't want you guys to get too locked in with this because I'm about to show you so much more at an unbelievable steal. Okay, so that already is an incredible value. But what if I added things? So we're on the right path here. You guys have started resonating with me. If you're here, if you're watching this, I've showed you how do you have a clear path with still the fluidity and the flexibility of having your own assignment. That's where that one-on-one comes in so beautifully. You surround yourself with the kind of accountability and support you need through this extraordinary community, and with group coaching, and with expert coaches, and with one-on-one with me. And you have a monthly way of checking in so you stay on path, rather than just a course where you do it, you log in maybe once, and then no one ever follows up with you and sees if you're going okay. Yes, I don't want that for you. I don't want you to get lost, have this push of desire for more, and then no follow through. We will follow through with you. Okay. With this, a course I have called the Bombshell Manifesto Activation Program. This is taking what is in my book that overviews the 12 pillars deeper, 13-hour-long audio teachings, challenges on each pillar for you to implement, inspiration. Like, this takes the overview of the 12 areas of a bombshell to another level. So you're not just coming into the mentorship, not kind of fully understanding what exactly we're doing here, but you feel aligned, like you will have guidance on exactly what this means in each area of your life so that you have something to dig into, to work with me as we're kind of figuring out how it's going to fit in your life. And I don't even have a slide for it, but if you guys know from the first training that until November 20th, which I believe is Sunday, you're also, if you join, going to get a 3-hour private virtual intensive with me. So one-on-one, just you and me, 3 hours, where we're going to go into whatever the past has had for you, whether it's last year or the rest of your life so far. And then what do you want now? Cleaning that out. We're basically going to go through these steps, cleaning that out. What are the new boundaries and goals we're going to set? How do you need to see yourself to accomplish that? And then what are we going to commit to, and how are we going to set up structures to make that happen? So a private 3-hour virtual intensive for people who jump in by November 20th. I'm very excited about that. And those of you who have, cannot wait to design those days with you. Okay. For women who pay in full, I have a few of these left. This beautiful bombshell necklace, which I should be wearing today, but it's not with me. And it's just a reminder of your identity and of who you were born to be, what divine feminine design is in the wake and midst of so many voices that are incomplete and inaccurate. So I love even just seeing it on my wall on the days I don't wear it. I have it hung up so that I can look at it as I walk in and out of my closet. It's like, oh yeah. Remember, it becomes, like I said, the decision-making matrix when I'm stuck, or I'm having other people's opinions, or I'm weighing the pros and cons of doing something someone else's way. This keeps me in alignment. And also, when the Bombshell Manifesto is re-released, I will personally send you a hard copy. So these are for the women who pay in full, those two things, okay? But I also want you to understand that everything that I do in my business, sports and funds, charities that I personally think are very important. Generally, the women who are drawn to me have similar hearts and are appalled by things like sex trafficking, child trafficking, any kind of poverty, people who haven't even heard of the love of God before. Like, the things that I feel passionate about tend to resonate with people who resonate with what I teach. So everything that comes into my business also funds these charities, which is beautiful. Why not free someone else as you're freeing yourself? So this is the reason I told you guys not to get too caught up on the mentorship pricing, although it's pretty similar. In fact, the painful is identical, but I don't want you to just say, okay, this is what I'm getting. This actually is what is available right now until the end of November, November 30th, which is my birthday. So excited. And it's like, I'm not pretending to be excited. I'm so excited. And I am heartbroken for women who don't take advantage of this, because this is an incredible deal for any woman who wants to step into full feminine mastery. This is why. This is what we're going over. The Bombshell Body course. Okay, I'm going to show you guys slides in a minute, which is a massive 10-module video course which transforms your body starting with your soul. That's why so many women can't maintain it, is they stick themselves in a diet regime that doesn't work through their wounding around their mother's relationship with their body, or what their father said about men, or what, maybe traumatically happened to them. Like, we're going deep. What the church told them was true about body care and how much it didn't matter. All these things. We're going through then the practicalities. I'm not just healing you internally, of a model mentality, right? I've modeled since I was 15. And the systems that I created of body stewardship and pure pleasure, so that, like I said, it becomes just on autopilot. You don't even have to think, right? You're setting up body care structures that you just put in place. You learn to master it. And then the results you want are the inevitable, easy, beautiful, pleasurable outcome. A full year of the new Bombshell mentorship. I've spent a lot of time describing that. So 12 months of this premier level of the new group program that supports women on their Bombshell journey. The premier level includes the private one-on-one laser coaching call with me each month. In the future, that may not be with me. It may be with one of my coaches that works with me. So right now is a phenomenal time, because it will never be this low again, and it will not necessarily always be with me. But for the next 12 months, it absolutely will be. Automatic enrollment into the new O class. If you guys have heard of the O class, that is my most well-known course. Like I've joked before, I try to talk about other topics, and women always come up to me and are like, but you have this course on intimacy, right? Can I, always, because it's such a struggle for so many women. I mean, the number of women who look beautifully pulled together and have many other areas of their life on lock, right? And then silently, quietly come to me, say, I haven't had sex with my husband in 5 years. I haven't had, we just don't. He knows, don't even ask, and I don't like that. And yet it's all I know how to do, right? And they're stuck in this, there aren't even words. And if you understand the spiritual battle that is around this topic, it's like a swamp. It's like purgatory. It's like hell. I mean, it's just this minefield battleground where female sexuality has been ripped at the seams, and we are so deeply wounded with these gaping open holes, and yet nobody wants to talk about it. There's bravado, and it's for the boys, or it's bad. Like, it's a mess. So the O class, and especially this new one, which is going to be so themed around empowerment and ownership. So not just for married women, not just women in relationships. I did the work for myself around my internal issues with intimacy long before I was married, right? Long before I was sexually active, which, for anybody who's been confused, was my wedding night. Thanks. Okay. Have the medical papers to prove it. So regardless of whatever woman's background is or current situation is, like, this is the work that any woman needs to do to be free in the most wounded and volatile, dangerous, I think, area and painful of a female existence in this world, in this culture where it's so attacked. You can be trying to hide from your sexual side. You won't be able to, because the world is so viciously coming at women from every possible direction, whether it's fertility issues or it's a disaster, right? So the new O class is going to take everything that the first one accomplished and explode it to another level. Again, I'm bringing in guest experts on pelvic health, on, rape survivor trauma, like crazy things that need to be addressed. This is going to be epic, and it is absolutely going to be sold at $2,000 when it opens, just as it was previously. So full access to, I haven't even talked about this one, next year's Live Feminine Mastery, which is a 6-month group coaching and course that I have never done before, but that I have been teaching in bits and pieces. And I keep being asked for the big picture of what's divine femininity, and what does that look like in context of divine masculinity, and where does sex and God and beauty and all of this fit into a package, right? Because again, my courses are usually focused, and that's when I realized I needed the mentorship. So the feminine mastery course is essentially going to take what we do in the mentorship and deepen it. We do talk about money and wealth and impact and being high value and highly visible at the end, but we're also digging into the beauty wound and the beauty signals and a lot of things that are in the Allure School in there. So 2 more pieces, and then I'm going to show you guys the visuals of everything that's included, because this is just a whole lot of words. The Bombshell Manifesto book relaunch. So I showed you guys the Bombshell Manifesto. It hit #1 twice. There is a method to that, although it does also mean that a book is liked. Thanks very much. But I'm going to show you the behind the scenes process as I relaunch this. I'm changing the content, etc. Not dramatically, but adding a lot of new things that I've learned. And it's going to be relaunched as a new book. So how am I even going to, I really hope, right? Hit bestseller again on Amazon. How do you write a book? What are the gory behind the scenes? If you guys have ever read that book, I believe it's Resistance by Stephen Pressfield. It is so good. Or The War of Art. And he discusses the resistance in it. Game changing. And I was reading it at the time I was writing my book. And oh my gosh, it's so accurate. But the unbelievable internal chaos around creation and telling your story and having a message that needs to be out into the world, and the resistance toward birthing something like that. And then the logistics. What do you do with the PDF? How do you format it? How do you get someone to design your cover? How do you pick your categories? How do you hit #1? How do you let anyone know that it exists? Do you make it free in the beginning? Do you then turn it to paid? Should you have a hard copy? Should you do an audiobook? Like everything. If you've ever wanted to create a book on the internet, self-published, the fastest way I know to create so much credibility and get a very important message out into the world. And then the option to come to Paris as well, which I will show you in a moment. But first, let me give you a couple of the visuals of the things that are included in this, because this is so exciting, okay? So just to be clear, I talked a lot about the mentorship and the importance of mentorship, but these things are included with the mentorship at the same investment right now. Okay, until the end of November 30th. And if you join by November 20th, you're also getting that virtual private one-on-one 3-hour intensive with me. So this is the Bombshell Body course. I mean, every time I visit the site, it just takes me back. You guys ever go through a battle or some area of your life that you just wrestled with for so long, and then when you finally mastered, it's like you forget how hard it was? That's what body care is for me. I look back at this course website and think, wow, I absolutely still remember the struggle. I remember like the late nights of binge eating after everybody had gone to sleep. I remember it all, but I forget it until I go back and look at what I've already walked through and mastered. So the Bombshell Body course inside is the most exquisite course ever. Okay. This was at the beginning of my business. I was no idea what I was doing, but I hired a web developer who we're still friends. He and his wife are amazing people in Australia. And I scoured the internet to find someone who could create this vision that I had in my mind. And this is it. It is beautiful inside. Oh my gosh, was that probably what I needed to invest in at that time? I don't know, but it was so worth it, because this thing is just, it is that portal that I was describing, where you go in and whatever's going on around you, whatever voices are around you, whatever chaos and noise, you go in and it's like, yes, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is who I'm becoming. This is who I already was and I forgot. And now I'm coming home. That was the intention for creating the beautiful Bombshell Body course website. So that whole course and the Facebook groups that come with it for support, everything is in there for you. Okay. The O class, which we just went over, the brand new 2.0 is completely included in this Black Friday offer that is only available till the end of November. Again, each of these courses is independently $2K. It's in the offer, which is at total pay in full discount $2K. It's like this, I'm just going to claim it now. This 2.0, 1.0 set so many women free. 2.0 is going to be another level. Is going to be another level. If you're a believer, like this is, it's an area where women come to me in pain, and maybe their spiritual life has been a little bit off. And because I'm able to help them in a very tangible way in their real world, then suddenly it opens them to having spiritual conversations that they weren't available to before. So I see this as a way of giving God's love to the world, leading people to truth, healing in an area that is so shame-based, even outside the church, that is just a disaster zone of untruth and baggage and wounding. And women deserve so much better, and we're designed to have such a better experience in every way, which is always of benefit to men. Right? The number of husbands who like me and are grateful, you're welcome. Okay. The Bombshell Manifesto book, this is just a couple screenshots of it from Amazon. It's got a whole bunch of great ratings. It hit #1 twice. I'm going to show you how to do that. And for the women who pay in full, I'm sending you a personal copy of the new version. For the women who are on the payment plan, you're going to get a PDF version absolutely when it is relaunched. But for the women who pay in full, it will also be the beautiful hard copy as well when it's newly launched. Okay, so just to recap what we've covered so far, for the total investment of $1,997 pay in full or $197 a month, which is crazy low, 12 full months of the top tier of the Bombshell membership, which includes one-on-one coaching with me every single month, the full O-Class 2.0, the Bombshell Body massive 10-module video, audio, all the things course to completely overhaul your relationship with your body permanently. The Feminine Mastery live course and coaching program, which you'll be able to shape the content with me because the women participating in those calls are going to be asking the questions that alters, how I'm choosing what content is most valuable. So that's going to be incredible. I think I had that at 3K on the last slide, but anyway, 2K is usually my painful discount. And then the Bombshell Manifesto relaunch live guide, which is the behind the scenes of how I'm going to be relaunching my book, hitting bestseller again, getting this message out, the internal journey of a creator and all of the resistance in the war of creation and art. A full guide to you if you've ever wanted to do that. A lot of people will talk about the nuts and bolts of getting a book up. Not many people talk about the creation process behind the scenes and give you the nuts and bolts. So I'm really excited for that. So let's talk about Paris. I promised you the Paris embodiment of all this, right? There is an additional option, again, only until the end of November. So many of you are so excited about this. I've had so many women be like, I'm going to Paris. It's beautiful to watch. The Paris Mastermind was announced, released, revealed at the end of October after my own beautiful 3-week trip to France. And I realized I need to bring women here for this experience that I create for myself over and over. Why would I not invite other women into this extraordinary, fast transformation embodiment of the Bombshell in all of these areas of life? So the Black Friday offer that includes Paris is, let me see if it's the next slide. Not quite. Okay, we'll get there. Is going to be $4,997 or $497 a month. And then if you decide not to pick Paris right now, that's totally fine. $1,997 or $197 a month. The cool thing about this is if you know the Paris Mastermind tiers, okay, the lowest tier is $5K, just gets you to France with us. I cover your hotel, I cover your photo shoot that we're going to be doing, I cover the activities, I cover almost all the meals. All you've got to do is get yourself there, girlfriend. And there's coaching before and the coaching call afterwards. So that already is like the most lean tier of the Paris Mastermind. This is that, plus everything already mentioned in the Black Friday bundle, okay? Which includes the Feminine Mastery course, which is the course and coaching program that is already included at the next 2 tiers of Paris. So you're getting basically the higher tiers of Paris for the lowest Paris tier price, plus the Bombshell Body. It's just, I basically just chopped $5K off of the second Paris Mastermind tier. It's a phenomenal opportunity to be able to get yourself to Paris for what, honestly, a trip to Paris often just costs, period, if you run all the numbers on the hotel and the food and the souvenirs and all the things. But with a guided experience to have a total feminine transformation while you're there, plus all of this coaching and support for an entire year. Like I said, I'm so excited about this, and I'm slightly heartbroken for the women who don't trust themselves and don't take action if it feels aligned, because I know that this isn't going to happen again. And I know that it's so much value for such a steal. Okay. A list of resolutions that are actually possible with support as we careen toward January. How many of you are feeling 2023 breathe down your neck already? If all this did was create lasting peace in your body and break the mindset cycles that have had you stuck in shame or dislike around your body for years, preventing full, open, loving relationships, or create unconditional body love and maybe take off the extra COVID weight with pleasure and permanency, or break sexual bondage that's stored in negative memories or cultural lies and improve any present or future sexual experiences to a degree that your girlfriends will want to know what you did. and pivot you into a position of pure empowerment and around sex and men for good. I don't think I even am talking about feminine mastery in this list, but like the extent that feminine mastery creates difference in your life is almost indescribable. Similarly, if all the to be seen, to be to feel like you matter. Do you guys ever just kind of get feel like you're lost in the shuffle and you keep showing up for everyone else's to-do lists and expectations for you, but you're not being held in your growth as a full woman? Not anymore, not with this. Total confidentiality. Also give you behind the scenes mastery tweaks that can actually be the game changer, right? I'm not just giving you, through those behind the scenes and the mentorship, the goal of that is to show you the little minute things that I might not think, to put in a course, but that I'm actually doing that make you go, oh my gosh, that makes it so easy, right? How many of you have had that from a mentor? When you have a mentor in your life who's mastered an area that you want to master, the little tiny decisions she makes could be exactly what allows you to speed up getting to that eliteness yourself. If it gives you access to a supportive and positive, like-minded sisterhood and friends for life, it is so cool to me to watch women come into my courses and then watch them interact on Facebook years later, like going to each other's weddings or sending each other baby presents. Like it's so cool. And it's because they met themselves and each other in this alignment of mindset that then led to a beautiful friendship for life. So I love that. If it helps you launch the message you've wanted to put out into the world in a very tangible way, self-published Amazon bestseller, you. Yes. Merry Christmas to yourself, right? If any of that happened, any of the individual things, and like I said, I didn't even get into what feminine mastery accomplishes, the body, beauty, sex, God, like all of the divine masculine, divine feminine alignment and activation, and then coming together and becoming the high value, high visible woman, all of that with one-on-one private mentorship for a year. And then the 3-hour private jumpstart if you join by the 20th. Like, would it be worth it? Yes, is the answer. But this is the question that's underneath it. And I know that questions like this are so tender that sometimes they almost feel offensive, right? Have you guys ever, are you resonating with that right now? Even is it like, oh, how dare you? But the question is, what is most valuable to you, right? Because I like shopping. It's fun. I like buying shoes. I like buying macaroons. I like buying lattes. And it creates a lovely life for that day or that month or something, right? But the times I have put my resources, not just finances, but my time, my effort, my attention toward growing myself are what has paid off astronomically, including financially, for sure. The growth that I've done, the times I've hitched myself to a mentor who has created something that I want to emulate in some area of my life, always pulls me forward fast in every area, including tremendous financial growth. Always. It's like some kind of spiritual law practically. So the question you're really asking is, when you're figuring out where to put any form of resource, time, effort, energy, money, are you on the list is really the question, right? Are you as a soul, as a woman, caring for herself, caring about what her life looks like in the long run, on the list, So it's like, and I do this every year. I look at the stuck points, the cycles that I may be in, the beliefs that I've had that may be holding me back, the goals that I have for what's coming. And I ask myself, essentially, is it worth it to create these changes? Am I worth it? Is my life worth it? Is the legacy I want to leave for my children, for the people coming behind me, worth it? Is it going to be yet another year? Right? Like these women who get older but don't grow. It's the exact same thing. Time goes by, but things don't change. Or with such speed that you almost can't believe it happened in such a short period of time. A totally different experience. Internally, externally, in your body, in your beauty, in your relationship with sex, in your relationship with men, in your relationship with God, in your relationship with yourself, in your relationship with money. Taking ownership from an open, empowered, soft, feminine, surrendered stance. It is magnificent, friends. It's magnificent. So again, the ways to access this by the end of the month, because then we're transitioning to Christmas, and then each of these things will be launched independently at their full prices. And this offer will be gone, right? Just to be in integrity with what I'm saying here. $1,997 pay in full discount, or $197 a month, gets you everything that we've mentioned. O-Class, Bombshell Body Course, 12 months of the top tier with one-on-one of the Bombshell mentorship, the behind the scenes of relaunching my book, and the Feminine Mastery course, all next year filmed live. Or the Paris option, which also, in addition to all of that, gets you a trip to Paris. There'll be 4 different dates next year, at least 4 different dates, 4 are already on the calendar. And you're coming. Whichever one fits your schedule best, right? We're not holding you to some time frame at all. It's all to work for you. So the entire Bombshell bundle plus the Paris Mastermind, one of those extraordinary trips. $4,997 in full, or $497 a month. So guys, let's just pause here, okay? Because I know when change is an option, so much comes up, right? Like if you're still here, you're watching the replay, or you're even just following me and investigating kind of what kind of work I do and what this is all about, chances are this resonates with you on some level, right? Chances are the concepts of total body care, body mastery, sexual mastery, deep sexual trauma healing, total empowerment around men, but openness, financial empowerment, relationship with God at a whole nother level, just so much fulfillment and joy and alignment with your life. Like you're here for a reason, right? Like there's something in this. It's like, yeah, I would take that, right? Okay. But in the moment of decision, and I've done this so many times, or I used to do this so many times. Now the alignment, the self-trust, the action orientation, I know what I know, and I act very quickly. And it has changed the game for me. But I know that at that moment when we're on the fence and it's like, I know I want this, but fears are there subconsciously. Is it going to work? Is it almost going to harm me to step into an empowered woman? Are people not going to like me? Like, is it going to work out? Can I do this? Can I trust myself with this? Am I really capable of this? Or is this just another pipe dream that's never really going to change anything? Right? In those moments, fear looks a lot like logic. Right? Like, I can't believe she's selling something. It's probably not even that great. I bet I could figure this out on my own. None of my girlfriends do this kind of stuff, so they're going to think I'm crazy. I'm really going to go to Paris. Isn't that dangerous? Right? So when fear masquerades as logic, in the moment of deciding to become a new version of yourself, first just recognize that that's happening, right? When I finally recognized that much of my logical reasons for waiting were fear, I was able to choose to not wait, right? To essentially flip the script on logic. So in this context, from a logical standpoint, just looking at the nuts and bolts of what you're tangibly getting for $497 a month, or $197 a month if Paris doesn't call, is crazy. Just from not even believing in change and transformation, just that amount of coaching and content and transformation that has been proven by the hundreds of women that have gone through my courses. And their testimonials they blow my mind. I was talking to one of my clients on the phone yesterday, and she's surpassing me. Not sure I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. I think it's amazing. It's when fear kicks in and looks like logic, hand your fear the logic of why something different is actually possible and even likely. Do you guys ever do that? You kind of work with your own mental defaults to say, hey, it's okay. I hear you. Doesn't make sense. Feels a little scary. Probably is too good to be true. But let's just run through the facts. of, for this particular price, what are we going to be obtaining? And the list I have given you guys is everything I've created to change women's entire relationship with and physical experience of. We're not just changing your thoughts, and we're not just putting a Band-Aid on the external. This is permanent, lasting transformation of body, beauty, intimacy, men, money, God, and your presence on the world stage, especially if you choose Paris. Getting a message out there, even if you're like, there'll be a business component to this for sure for many of you. So this is available till the end of the month. I invite you to feel if it's aligned, trust yourself, and make the decision that feels right. But there is a time limit because from my end, I have to be aligned with myself and serve my clients in the time frames where I'm focused on presenting a new offer versus pulling back and working with the women who are in, right? So of course this has to end so I can shift my energy and focus as well. So who will you be this time next year? This time next year, 2023, we'll be heading into the holidays again. Will it be the same or will it be different? For me, I know it's going to be different. I've already made the investments. I've already put the dates in my calendar. I've already picked the mentors. Like, it is guaranteed to be a very different experience for me this time next year because of what I have intentionally set up based on, like I said at the beginning, knowing myself, the recurring prices or the investments, whatever is going to ping me to show up for what I knew I wanted at that time. It's a done deal for me. Is it going to be a done deal for you? And it doesn't have to be through this, but for many of you, again, if you're still here, my hunch is there's something that's calling to you. And if even just knowing that you're going to Paris for sure in 2023, that's a gift to yourself that you can celebrate now for beginning, and you will sure as heck be celebrating this time next year as a totally new ascended version of yourself. I'm so excited for the women who are going to be joining us in this. It is going to be extraordinary. So for those of you who are already in, I can already feel your energy of not just excitement, but of higher strength, of like the permission you've given yourself to step into your next level of power. And believe me, for those of you who have already joined, it is only going to climb. And for those of you who are joining now, you're all going to be getting that virtual 3-hour private intensive to set you on this path for an unbelievable next year. I'm so thrilled because the more women we have who are activated in this total, comprehensive, empowered, open femininity without any of the traps or the platitudes or the easy to be deceived by stuck cycles that women get into of either being angry or being disempowered, this transcends all of them. This is divine feminine design. I'm so excited to share it with you. So thank you for being here with me for these last 2 hours now of your time. For those of you who are jumping in and becoming this incredible version of yourself, get excited. It is going to be epic on a level you can't even yet conceive of. That's been my experience, my clients' experiences. It's just how it is. Okay. I love you. I'll talk to all of you again next week. Have a beautiful weekend. For those of you who joined, feel free to reach out with any questions. I am here for you, and I cannot wait for everything that you're about to become. Much love. Bye, guys.